What do you get when you cross a know-it-all newspaper columnist with an awkward, unsophisticated everyman?
Yeah. Well, I'm just not sure about that right now.
Welcome to Couch and the Rube.
Welcome to Couch in the Rube, our Monday afternoon show, presented by our friends at Muskox Quality Flannels. It is flannel season, not just inside, outside. Outside. Yesterday I was outside without a coat, with just a Muskox flannel on, going for a walk. It's that 40-degree weather that Stringer Bell and The Wire said was forgettable. It's not. After you go through that January, 40-degree weather is amazing, and a Muskox flannel is the way to spend it. Go to gomuskox.com today. Treat yourself to a Muskox flannel, and Couch in the Rube listeners get $15 off with any Muskox flannel, with their first Muskox flannel purchase. Again, the promo code is HOFF, H-O-F-F. Gomuskox.com. Jason, how you doing, brother? Riding right up into my rectum, and it was painful.
I'm not doing great, man.
No, why not?
No, there's no football anymore. Except for the Super Bowl on Sunday. I know it happens every year, but this past weekend was complete ass.
It's depressing a little bit.
I know it happens. It happens every year. You know, you miss football for a little bit. And still, it blows my mind that some of these leagues that are trying to form we've talked about it before, they should start like right about now. Right? Like the XFL and the USFL and all the...
See, I think it's the opposite. I think that because they do start pretty soon, right? I think what you need is you do need a break. You need a breather. I think you need a post-March Madness league. I think once we get through like a minute of February, we've done the football. And the other thing you don't want to be if you're a new football league or a minor league football league is you don't want the direct comparison and level of play. So if you get 2-3 months away, nobody can really compare week to week what they just saw. That would be my only advice. And
well, I mean, I could just see, like, I'm not going to watch those leagues regardless because they just don't have any players that you want to watch.
Right,
but
right.
I just feel like in between the 2-week hype and the Lions losing all that, it's just like, man, I just want to watch some football and college basketball. Who knows how bad that's going to get year after year? Product, that is. Anyway.
Yeah. Well,
just blows.
March Madness is coming. So, and we're going to spend quite a bit of time today on Michigan State basketball. And I finally did the Trey Holloman column, just dropped before we started recording, that includes the bit about him being a doppelganger for Wood Harris, the actor in The Wire, and winning time and above the rim, I guess, is his first big role, and all those things. So, and he's talked about, since he was a little kid, he got recognized as like Wood Harris. I mean, we're not the only ones who think he looks like Wood Harris. There's hopefully some good stuff in there. I think people will enjoy on Trey, and leading into his homecoming, going back to Minnesota Tuesday night for Michigan State's game there. You want to dig into our hot takes?
Absolutely.
What do you got first?
You can go.
You sure?
I don't have much of Michigan State.
Okay.
I got to say, because of this team, I don't know what to do with this team. When they play well, I enjoy watching them, but they still mix in the assness every once in a while. It just drives me nuts. But
well, the assness is definitely going to be there, I think, at times.
Yes.
If that should be a thing. So I guess my Michigan State hot take today is what they did against Maryland, and this is the positive. If you're looking for lasting things you can take from games, because it is tricky. They're at a point now where they can't win the Big Ten title. Purdue's going to win the Big Ten title after beating Wisconsin, although I think Wisconsin's really good. So that's out of the way. You don't know if you're good enough to even beat Wisconsin. You're certainly not going to finish above them in the standings. You're playing a little bit for Big Ten tournament seeding, but who really cares about that? The point is March Madness beyond there. And I don't know if they could beat Purdue anyway. So if you're a 4 seed in the Big Ten tournament and you play Purdue in the semis, what the hell is that? You know, who cares, right? If you can't beat them in a one-off. And maybe that will matter to them because they haven't been able to, there are years where the Big Ten tournament does mean something to teams, especially when you feel like you should have won the regular season and you don't, and you turn it on there. And so maybe Michigan State will try to show some of its teeth there, and that will be a big deal for them. But what I thought was the takeaway, if there's something that was significant or at least promising for Michigan State, was that it won a different kind of way. It won with real grit and outlasting a team and out-rebounding a good rebounding team and playing a game that was as exhausting as I've seen them play all year. Like, you could see it on both teams' faces. That was just draining. Every possession was a grind. Maryland does that to you. They're the best defensive team in a lot of ways in the Big Ten. If they had another shooter, they'd be a contender. And the funny thing is, in the old era, you'd say, that's too bad. In the transfer portal era, you're like, why didn't they go get a shooter? Because that's wasting a team that could be a contender otherwise. But I think there are things that are promising. When you lose by 15 on the rebounding margin in College Park a couple weeks earlier, and then out-rebound a team, and then you keep defending even when you give up offensive rebounds. Like, they gave up 11 or 12 offensive rebounds, but until the final minute, only 4 second-chance points. Like, it wasn't like, shit, they got it, now layup. It was like, all right, we're going to grind this out for another 30 seconds. Like, it was one of those games where the will to win was there. Now you got to see it repeatedly. Like, Minnesota on the road is not going to be easy. They just beat Northwestern. We saw Michigan State play Minnesota at Breslin. Not an easy game. But I thought in terms of a team that has a determination and a grit and a will to get something done, that was an important game, and it's the type of game that matters in seeding because all these games do now. There aren't, a lot of these aren't great wins or horrible losses, but they stack up to something. And so I thought it was a good win. It does nothing on its own, but it's much better than losing. And they beat a team and they won a way that maybe they haven't always won. And I thought that was really important. And Malik Hall had a senior moment. Like, he wrote that he met the moment, so to speak, in the second half.
See, and it's like with Mady Sissoko, it's like the beginning of the season, like he could play 3 games. He was unbelievable. Like Malik Hall, like that move behind the back and then the turn around, fade away, like jumper. It's like, why can't we consistently get this kind of Malik Hall, right?
Yeah, because it's not who he is. I mean, Malik Hall has always been, and he's gotten better at this because he's more physical and he's more confident, but he's always been a guy who's a master of, or a jack of all trades, a master of none, right? Since the earliest flashes he showed as a freshman, I remember in Maui, he like turned, drove, and dunked over somebody. And I was like, yeah, wow. I never seen that again.
Right.
It's like one play in 4 years.
Do it.
Yeah, and we, he developed a little bit of consistency, sort of that turnaround jumper that's sort of become his go-to move in a certain range. And but what matters to him is sort of a level of determination at the end of the game that they needed buckets and he was going to give them, come hell or high water, and that's what you need from him. That level of determination late in games, because we'll learn a lot this week. Like, they have an opportunity. Minnesota is not a bad team. And because it's on the road, that's a good win potentially. And in terms of the metrics, depending on where Minnesota finishes, but then you get Illinois at home, and that's one of your last real chances at a win that can bump you a little bit. And obviously we saw how they lost Illinois down in Champaign. It's a winnable game, but Illinois I think Ken Palm has Michigan State winning by 1 at home. So Ken Palm sees Illinois is better than Michigan State because you get 3 points for being home, really. So that'll be fascinating.
What do you think of the guard play? I mean, should Tyson Walker, he shot 16 times. Should he shoot that every game? Would you be mad at that? I don't think I would be mad at that if he shot 16 times a game.
No, he's usually been shooting 14, and
But you look at Hogarth's stat line, it's just, I like the way the Hogarth distributed the ball. He actually had 8 assists. Tyson Walker, just shoot the ball, baby. Shoot it if you're open.
By the way, there is a betting prop that I want to give to people that has a potential to be profitable on Michigan State. It's not something I can ever take, obviously, but and I don't know if you can get this on the Firekeeper's Eye Casino and Sportsbook app, but I've seen it other places. They will do a A.J. Hogarth assist, like over 4.5, over 3.5, over 5.5, depending on who they're playing on the road.
Bet, yes.
Yep. But they also have an adjusted one often that's this number or above. And often they're doing him 8 or above at like plus 900. And at home, where they give friendly assists, like if he sneezes anywhere near the guy who shot it, it's an assist. That's a word. He had 8 assists the other day. He's had 8 assists. I mean, it's less with this team than he did when he had Hauser. But that is it. Like the plus money you get on that number is worth a crack at sometimes for people. I would say. But yeah, Tyson Walker, there are no bad shots for him. He did in that game. He carried them in the first half when they needed that, and then they had other options. But
I just feel this team that is going to go as far as Tyson Walker can take them.
Well,
but just shoot the ball.
They have something that other teams don't. Other teams don't always have a Tyson Walker. Now, a lot of teams have a good player, but a guy who can create at that level.
And they have a big that can rebound?
Well, the other teams have other things Michigan State doesn't have. Right. No, there's no doubt about it. We'll get lots more in MSU basketball throughout your hot takes here in a few minutes. What's your hot take, your next hot take?
Well, the Brad Holmes had a press conference today, Graham, and I was alerted this by Chris King, at Chris King 2050, from Al Carson. Tweeted this out. Brad Holmes roasting Carlos Monarez for calling Ifeatu Melifonwu a miss with his patented smirk, and he says it was almost as magical as this season. So Brad Holmes, not only winning executive of the year, he's calling out Los Monarez, but it made me think, our favorite Michigan fan, Jordan, sent this story to me because we've talked about should we pay Jared Goff, what kind of contract should he get, and it's Baker Mayfield, who bet on himself. Tampa Bay, he had a great season. But they're talking about in this article, Graham, that he's looking at a mega contract. Baker Mayfield, that is. We're talking $40+ million for Baker Mayfield. And I'm like, uh-oh.
It's a problem.
What does that mean? Right?
Yeah.
And the salary cap next year, it's going to go up to maybe like $240 million. The Lions have $60 million in cap space. I just, if guys like Baker Mayfield are going to be coveted this much, we got a guy. I think it would be disrespectful to offer him $40 million.
Yeah, you're gonna have to go draft a quarterback. It's a problem because Baker Mayfield. I mean, what you have to tell Jared Goff is it's not our fault the Bucs don't ever want to win a Super Bowl. It's not our fault the Giants are never going to win a Super Bowl. Don't blame us. Don't blame It's just like with the Cleveland Browns and Deshaun Watson for that stupid contract. Their stupidity is not our fault, and that conversation needs to start being had. $40 million is plenty for Jared Goff. It is a good contract. The guy's made a lot of money.
So how much would you pay Baker Mayfield if you were Tampa Bay?
I wouldn't pay him. I would franchise him, but I wouldn't pay him.
I have to say I kind of agree.
But the point is to win a Super Bowl. You're not going to win a Super Bowl with him.
Right.
So don't pay him.
What, are you going to pay him $200 million guaranteed or something crazy like that?
The idea is not to be good. The idea is not to be the Chicago Bulls of the NFL and just getting the play-in every year. I mean, that's not the idea of this.
Maybe 3 years, 120, something like that. I don't know. But that just scared me when I saw Baker Mayfield. They're easily talking $40 million.
And you know what I would do with Jared Goff? What do they got, $60 million under the cap?
Mm-hmm.
I'd give him it all for 1 year.
The whole 60?
I'd say, we're going to pay you year by year whatever is left under the cap. Next year, you get
smart,
60.
Yeah.
The year after that, you may get 4.
That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Let Brad Holmes do his thing.
I know.
Without your terrible ideas.
Speaking of bad ideas, my next hot take, I feel good about this because I got the approval from James Edwards, who thought it was not a bad idea, by the way. I have a trade, I think, for the Pistons.
We're dropping MFers now?
That I think will work. I think the Pistons, who need to shake things up, obviously, should consider trading Cade Cunningham. And hear me out here. And this is exactly what I said to James. Hear me out, because I was worried about his response. I don't want to be that fanboy, tweets him, hey, I got a trade idea, man. Donuts for Cade. All right, the Suns get Cade Cunningham, Bojan Bogdanovic, and Isaiah Stewart. Bogdanovic, Stewart, Cunningham. Pistons get Devin Booker. This year, that is, the contracts add up both to about $36 million. Those three, and Booker's $36. The Suns get younger at point guard and an actual point guard in Cade. And out of second apron hell, which is going to hit this summer, before that hits, they get another good piece on a title contender in Bojan to help replace Booker's shooting too. They get some depth inside where they've got problems in Stewart on a favorable contract that hasn't kicked in yet. The Pistons get a star in his prime. They get shooting, which they need, and they turn the keys over to Ivy with Booker in the backcourt, and maybe Sasser is an intriguing development piece. To me, that's the way they need to start thinking, because the Pistons' core doesn't actually fit, but they do have pieces that are Ivy and Duren, you don't want to get rid of Durham, but Ivy and Cade, it's not clear if they can play together. Both, I think, have tremendous value on the trade market. Cade more than anybody. Like, you can get something for Cade. You have an expiring contract in Bogdanovich. Like, to me, that's where they need to be. I know this is pie in the sky. This is trade machine bullshit. But, like, this is, if you want to really shake up your franchise, get a star in his prime, have a chance to be something quickly. And I think the Suns, I mean, who knows? They get younger. They get Cade. Who knows what he's going to become? The Suns may actually get better, too. I mean, that's hard to say because Booker's that great. But I think there's a real argument both teams should do it. I don't know if.
But we go from one guy, Brad Holmes, to another guy, Troy Weaver. It's completely different. I mean,
we used to think highly of Weaver.
We did. But is Booker a guy that you think can come in and be the man by himself?
Well, yeah. I mean, he's a number one. I do believe he's number one. I think he's a top 5-6 guy in the NBA. Yep. And
I don't hate it.
And then they already have that in Durant. They still have, shooting with Beal. I mean, now their roster is more complete. The Pistons roster is more complete. It's kind of what both teams need. Now, James thought they should offer Ivy instead, keep Cade, and maybe throw in a draft pick. I don't think the Suns do that. The Suns are trying to win now. Cade is the guy that right now, to me, would be intriguing. And it's a lot to give up, but you're getting Booker back. And it's only because I don't think the Suns can win it without doing something. The way they're constructed, it's two teams that are constructed poorly and have different problems. They're at a much higher level. But the Pistons actually have some things right now. They got to use them while they have them.
But you were a big Cade Cunningham
guy.
I
am huge. And I'm a huge Booker guy, too.
But really, does that feel like you're giving up on Cade Cunningham, maybe number one overall pick? And what if he goes to Phoenix and actually starts balling out?
That's okay. I'm confident Booker will ball out. And I don't think that Cade and Ivy will ever – I mean, Ivy's shooting better, but I don't know that those two will ever play well together. And that's and I want to put the ball in Ivy's hands, and Booker can handle it too, so that works. And you just have a shooter there now. You've got a lineup that may work. I think the Suns, have a chance to be more whole. And anyway, that's my Pistons take. And I asked James, and he said he'd run it up the flagpole. So if it happens today or before the trade deadline, you heard it here first.
Who's flagpole? Tom Gores?
He said he mentioned Tamani for me, at least. I don't know if we get to Troy. But it might stop at Monty, and Monty hates
Monty's
Ivy.
Like, I don't give a shit.
Monty,
$178 million or whatever.
Yeah, Monty would trade Jaden Ivey for you, so he wouldn't get. He just doesn't get it apparently. So, all right, what's your next hot take?
I feel bad for Patrick Mahomes as someone that has a family that, especially on my mother's side, that's like, I don't know if you saw this, but his father got another DUI last night. So not only does this guy, he married his high school sweetheart. He has a brother who's a complete tool. And now his dad, like, what do you have to do when you make $400 million? Do you have to break them off to go, listen, how do you get a DUI when your son is Patrick Mahomes, though? That's why I don't have any sympathy for these people, especially rich people, celebrity people that obviously you can call an Uber. It just blows my mind that he has so much going on, and now his wife's best friends with fucking Taylor Swift, and he's got to do that whole thing. I mean, what does he take? Does he take Xanax or something? Like, I need to know what Mahomes, because he always seems like he's in a great mood. He seems like a great guy, but he's just surrounded by fuckos.
Yeah, I don't know. And his dad was a Major League Baseball player too. Like,
right. Does that mean he can't get a DUI? What does that mean?
No, I don't. I just saying he's not like he's not been like a drunk all his life who's never mounted anything.
Well, he's got about 3 DUIs.
Right. No, it's not good. It's not good. And he might do jail time from it. Probably should, because there's no excuse for DUIs. There never has been excuse for DUIs, but there's even less so now in the rideshare era. Like, I do not get it. Like, I mean, we've all had a moment in our lives where we got behind a wheel and we thought, yep, shouldn't have done that.
Moments.
Mm-hmm. We've had those. And I'm not saying that I haven't had a couple moments in younger years where you thought, boy, I know it was just a mile, but that was not bright.
Did you ever get pulled over?
Once.
While you were a little, yeah.
I got pulled over. I don't know if I would have lost my job or not. In 2006, I got pulled over in Buffalo. So I was covering Western Michigan at Buffalo in basketball back when I lived in Kalamazoo, by the way. Went out with my cousin, was on like an intramural baseball team, and it was the greatest night of darts in my life. Like, we went out, we're having a few drinks, and I just hit that zone, where you're not too drunk, but you're buzzed, and I just couldn't miss. I've never been this hot in darts. But it was cool because I was the older cousin. I was like 27. He was like 21. We were all with all his buddies. And I just couldn't miss on the dartboard. Like, Jesus, this guy, what a guy. How amazing.
So you're better like how much you drink. Like, I used to be pretty good at pool when I would start drinking.
Yeah. No, there's a sweet spot. Then you get sloppy and you lose the focus. But we had these things called garbage plates. Anybody who's been in upstate New York, Buffalo area, it's like macaroni on bread with ketchup and all sorts. It's a lot. Thankfully I had this. And then we go back to his place. He and his buddy start like wrestling. I'm like, I gotta get the fuck out of here. I gotta go back. I gotta get to the hotel. Got a long drive tomorrow, wherever I was headed. Like afterwards.
WWE wrestling?
21-year-olds drunk in a house, all living together on campus. You know how it looks. So I'm on my way out of there, and I think I'm okay. It's been a little while since I've drank, and thankfully I had that. But I don't really know where I'm going. This is before your phone had the ability to really tell you where you're going. So I've got like MapQuest directions or whatever they were.
Shuffling papers.
Yeah, I'm like, what the hell? And I rolled a red light trying to pay attention to my next turn up there, trying to figure out what I was doing. Got pulled over. Luckily, I did two things. Probably shouldn't be telling this story, but I feel like the statute of limitations has lapsed since 2007 or whatever it was. 2006. Luckily, I messed with the blower. Like I didn't give a good blow, so he couldn't get a read.
Oh,
interesting. Yeah. And then I had Barry Sanders balance. So when I had to do the Olympics outside the car, no problem. I'm slow as shit, but I got great balance.
Wow.
Right. So
no breathalyzer.
No breathalyzer, and he couldn't. I don't know, work, and he just let me go. It might have been on the fringe. I don't know what I would have blown anyway. It wasn't like I was, but I don't know what their limit level was in upstate New York. I don't know anything. I just knew I had a job that I loved. It was my first year traveling. I was there for work, and I was screwed.
And it was 2006, back when police officers could be mean to you.
Yeah,
get away with it.
I got away with it.
Really lucky, man.
Yeah, I got incredibly lucky. Otherwise, and that was a good lesson early on. Like, do not take chances. And I was glad everybody's had one of those. That is a story probably not worth telling, but
Patrick Mahomes Sr. needs to take some notes.
Yeah, told anyway. Presented by our friends at Midtown Brewing Company, 402 South Washington Avenue in downtown Lansing. A great place for Trivia Tuesdays, by the way. Just a fantastic vibe. Great place to watch games. It's an unbelievable place. Great food, great beer, just good vibes, and a great date place. And we may be doing something there really soon. People have talked about a Couch in the Rube gathering, little live show option. This month, we're looking at, and I think the day we're looking at, we'll square this up officially, but it looks like February 17th, that Saturday afternoon before the Michigan game in Ann Arbor. If mark your calendars, a chance to hang with us, do a live show from Midtown Brewing Company in downtown Lansing. So just want to kind of put that out there.
Graham texts me. He's like, "Don't worry, you won't have to tell any jail stories."
Yeah. I won't do that to you again.
I'm sure.
I panicked last time. Like we didn't have we'll plan a better show.
Well, it didn't help that everyone was in town for the Michigan State game. Every
other
cable outlet or anyone that had a pulse was watching the game or tailgating somewhere.
Well, there were three big tailgates. It was like ESPN, Fox. Game day was in. Fox had its big noon. And then
I'm not saying 1,000 people would have shown up if there wasn't.
No.
We were the only one. I'm saying I feel like we would have had a couple more.
Yeah,
maybe.
Yeah, probably would have been better. But anyway, we'd love to hang with you. We just want to do a fun show, be low key. Great chance for you to get to know Midtown Brewing Company and hang with us, and we'll do some fun stuff. We'll make it kind of a built for live show. It'll, of course, be on the network as well, so you'll be able to listen to it as a podcast as well. What is your? Okay. I'll give my last one.
All right.
I'm getting annoyed with the tone of the leaders of college football, and yesterday a story breaks that the Big Ten commish, the SEC commish, they're not so sure about this 12-team playoff and all the details if it's going to work. I don't know.
Well, they can't take it back.
We're in control. We're on control of the I'm sick of the tone being negative. The tone should be, we want to do what's best for college football. We want to do what's best for the fans and the student athletes. We're going to do everything we can to that for the whole of college football. And, yeah, there may be some details to work out here, but that's where our aim. That's never the fucking tone. Get that tone through your thick skulls, because let me tell you what. You could screw up this golden goose. You can screw this up. There's a lot of stuff already turning people off, a lot of the stuff. You screw up the 12-team playoff, you become so irritable and so unlikable, you're already there. Like the Big Ten is not that likable right now. The SEC is not that likable. Now, they have a group forming that I have some high hopes for based on who I know is on that group and things I can't share yet. But I do have some hope that there's going to be some good voices looking ahead in college football and college athletics. But watch your tone. Don't act like you own this shit. We own this shit. All of us. Because ultimately the fans decide whether this works. The fans decide whether NIL is a thing, whether the transfer portal, whether there's a market for any of this. And you can say, well, college football will never go away. We're addicted. Yeah, we are. But if it wanes, there's no guarantee the next generation is in love with this. If there's no affiliation with the school, if there's not the connection there is now, if people are turned off too much over time, shit gets passed over generations. Be careful not to screw it up because there's no guarantee, especially in hoops. You could really screw up hoops, but in football even.
I was about to say I'm more worried about college hoops.
I am too.
Than college football.
I feel like I need to be a voice for the tone in the room. You know how we talk about having somebody who's like a consultant for the resting bitch face with coaches on the sideline when they have that gaping open mouth? I think we need that for these commissioners and just tone in terms of how you're communicating, not like, hey, if it doesn't work for us, it doesn't work, F
He's
you.
got a stupid-looking face.
A lot of these guys, I mean, come on. This isn't your world.
These guys have always been that way, right?
It's starting to annoy the hell out of me.
Wait, so they can't go back on this 12-team playoff, though, right? It's going to happen.
Right.
Okay,
right.
Don't scare me like that.
Another quick announcement before we dig into our listener hot takes. We have a new presenting sponsor.
Yes.
Which is going to be starting with us here shortly. Pure Options Cannabis.
Yes.
So we're going to be doing lots of stuff with them. They're on board.
I've already done a lot of stuff with them.
Yeah, well, they're a fit, obviously.
I've dabbled in their product.
We're really excited about this. They're excited to be with us, and that's going to get going. So if you're looking to support somebody who supports us right off the bat, just let you know, Pure Options is coming aboard. We're excited.
Thanks,
and
Pure Options.
They're going to be our new presenting sponsor here.
It's great to have weed back.
Absolutely. Yeah. Been a tough break. All right, let's dig into these listener hot takes.
All right, Eric Schultz up first. While Jaden Akins is undoubtedly a plus player, the kid we saw his freshman year and at the end of last season led me to believe that he'd be an all Big Ten caliber guy by now. If MSU makes a run, him taking that step will be why. Not a great game for Jaden on Saturday.
It wasn't, but I think he's onto something here. You see it in the Michigan game, and you saw it late last season. And, he is a guy who elevates them and can elevate them with his shooting. And the other thing is they really need him because with Cohen Carr not being in a position yet to be relied upon for major minutes and not to be on the court enough for his athleticism to change who MSU is, it's going to be Akins. And ultimately, especially with you need Malik Hall at the 4, you're going to have, Carr usually at the 3. It's going to be him or Akins, but it's going to be Akins mostly. And he isn't a big wing, but he's athletic, and he's the closest thing they have to changing who they are athletically and having that permeate the roster. He's got to be an athlete out there, and he's got to be a scorer. So yeah, I'm with you on that. I think he's an incredibly important part, and he probably of the guys who are ready to perform has the highest ceiling left to get to reasonably this year.
Maybe me be next. The Super Bowl is better with all of the Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce hoopla.
Where are you on this?
I mean, is it better? I don't mind Taylor Swift. I mean, Travis Kelce. I mean, Treese, if she's into the Kelce brothers, she listens to their podcast more than ours now. So, I mean, yeah, it doesn't bother me when they show Taylor Swift. I mean, they do so many other things, the NFL, it's, to piss you off. Showing Taylor Swift is my mic fine?
Yeah.
Okay. Showing Taylor Swift for like 30 seconds for a whole game isn't that big of a deal. And it makes, like, little girls are watching football now.
Yeah, there's like
crazy
5 million more viewers or something. I don't know. I don't mind it at all, number one, because we've done this forever with Jack Nicholson and other people. Like, it's not that big a deal. And the other thing is
Jack Nicholson.
Nicholas.
Oh, Nicholas.
Nicholson. No, Nicholson. Who's the
Jack Nicholson? But it was just a random. How does that correlate to Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce?
Right, but when he was on the sideline of Laker games, forever, nobody was like, "Oh my God, look who's courtside." Spike
Everyone
Lee.
loved that though.
Yeah, what's Spike Lee doing here? Do not show Spike Lee. What the hell? Nobody did that. At Knicks games, And the other thing is, this is what the Super Bowl is about. I mean, the football season really ends with the championship games. This is sort of the commercial circus that is, and this is better. I mean, I remember going to like Super Bowl Media Day when it was in Detroit in 2005, and you got like Tom Arnold there, pretending to be, somebody else.
Yeah, but he was
interviews.
on that Best Damn Sports show back then, so that's probably why they were there.
Yeah, but anyway, I'm just saying this is a better circus than some of the circuses we've had, so I'm good with it.
Suburban Spartan Dad next. Malik Hall is in the middle of an Aaron Henry 2021 style. I put the team on my back February that will result in the Spartans getting a 6th seed and being comfortably in the NCAA tournament come March.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see about. I mean, obviously Aaron Henry did that just to get them in the tournament in 2021. The difference is Henry was the lead guy, and this team has Tyson Walker. This team just has more. That's why they're not a bubble team. But I do think this team's ceiling, not only a guy like Jaden Akins, but the urgency of some of the seniors and a guy like Malik Hall, playing that determined game after game, is how you raise your ceiling, is how you win a game that maybe you don't have the most favorable matchup all the way around. Because the beauty for Michigan State is they're going to win some matchups. They're the problem. Like they're going to be a tough team, a tough out for teams. They can make a run if the right matchups are there. The other beauty is it's one and done. And on a given day, you can hit 11 threes. On a given day, you can have a guy play really well. Things can go right. And that's what you're going to have to hope for. And if it was a best-of-7 series, Michigan State would have no shot at getting to a Final Four. Zero. Because there are enough teams out there where I think there would be matchup problems. But that it's not a 7-game series. By the way, back to the Travis Kelce's Taylor Swift thing. It's a love story between a pop star and a football player. Like who doesn't love that? Like it's like the cheerleader football player. It's like the what's his name from Boise State when he proposed to his girlfriend on the field. All that shit's great. It's fun. I don't get why anybody's turned off at all.
All right. Alan Pearlstein next. Next year's starting backcourt will be Fears at point guard and Holloman at shooting guard. That'll be one of the best backcourts in the Big Ten.
It could be. I think that might be it. It'll be interesting to see what happens with Akins if he comes back. And if Akins does, and you have Cohen Carr, what does that lineup look like? But
Akins coming back, you mean like to the NBA possibility or
who knows?
Transferring?
Who knows? But if Jaden Akins comes back, do you put him more at the 2 and Cohen Carr more at the 3 and Booker's at the 4? You know what I mean? Like you can see a lineup where but I do think Holloman's going to be a hard guy to keep off the floor as he gets older. You're already seeing the best sign for Holloman is the strides he made from year 1 to year 2. He came in year 1, understood what he had to do to get on the court, not make mistakes. Year 2, he's been an impact player more than anybody thought. And so that gives you a thought. And he's a hard guy not to root for. He's got the old Cassius Winston kind eyes. Just unbelievable. I mean, it's the kindest eyes since Winston. And
how about his thighs? Are they okay?
The guards, they don't pay as much attention to their thighs as I do the bigs. But I'll if you'd like, I'll check them out.
Yeah. David Jaxon next. A basketball win at Minnesota will certainly mean a final Big Ten finish of no worse than 4th place. If Nebraska beats Illinois today, which was Sunday, then 3rd place will be in play. Bonus, the failure of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame to honor any of Badfinger, the Raspberries, or the Knack with inductions invalidates the entire organization. These are probably the 3 best power pop bands ever. Give or take Big Star, Boycott the Hall until we get redress.
I like when people get things off their chest.
That's passion.
Yeah.
The Raspberries, I've never heard of them.
I kept thinking of the Cranberries. I was like, man, the Cranberry, you get the name wrong here?
Yeah, but the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is ass anyway, right?
I've been once. It was okay. It's a
no. I mean, it's probably fun to go and check out the Hall of Fame. I'm talking about their process of where how they let people.
Oh, I don't really know what the process is. Yeah,
it's stupid. Apparently,
it's something to do in Cleveland. To the first thing about the Big Ten tournament seeding, I do think that Big Ten tournament seeding is something to pay a lot of attention to because if you're the 3 seed, you avoid Purdue in the semifinals, and I mean, again, maybe getting knocked out in the semifinals if you're going to get beat by Purdue in the final is a better way to prep for the NCAA tournament. I've never been a huge Big Ten tournament guy. they'd have to beat Wisconsin anyway is at the 3-2. I mean, you want to avoid playing the extra game. So if you can get in the top 4 and avoid the double bye, I think, or get the double bye, I think that's what's most important. And then you're going to have to probably beat Wisconsin and Purdue in some order anyway. So I don't know if it's that big a deal other than getting in the top 4.
Spartan Johnny next. One of my favorite show moments is not when Graham postulates how the Goff contract talks should go. We get it. But instead, when Graham finds a scenario leading him to say, I don't want to tell anyone how to spend their money, and then moments later goes into a live read for how we should spend our money. Yeah, but that's for like good products. Though.
Yeah. I mean,
it's a recommendation.
Right. I'm not telling you what you should do.
Yeah.
But if you want to be comfortable and you want to be warm and you want to look good, I'm telling you a Muskox flannel can do all of that for you. That's all it is. And you can do that just by going to gomuskox.com. And, if you want to use the promo code HOFF, you get $15 off. That's all I'm saying.
I love my 2 flannels. We're not just saying it because they're a sponsor of the show, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I love those flannels. Jared Goff Truther next. I need betting advice. Have a $50 to pay $5.50 on the Niners to win the Super Bowl, but really do not want to root for them. Also, we'll be at a Super Bowl party with Taylor Swift fans. Do I hedge, cash out, or just let it ride? $250 cash out option. Thinking of cashing out and putting it all on Kansas City.
Okay, so wait a sec here. You got to do some math before you if you cash out and put it all on Kansas City, that's not hedging, really. I mean, what you got to kind of figure out is if you hedge, can you – I mean –
Well, he's just saying what the cash out would be.
Right.
$250. He's not saying, like, hedge with that. He's saying I could take the $250 out and then just straight bet the Kansas City Chiefs.
No, but right. But if you cash out $250, you get $250, and then you put it all on Kansas City. He's saying put $250 on Kansas City, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, what I would do is if you're going to do that, just hedge $250 right on Kansas City, period, and win $550 or win $250. You know what I mean? Like I would
let it ride.
Yeah. I would do some math here, though, and figure out what you really want to do. Because I've done it a lot of times where I've hedged wrong or, like, late in the game, I'm like, wait a second, I could have won both ways, and I didn't even think about
yourself.
it. Yeah, all of a sudden you're like, oh, shit. So for the betting advice, I would just do the math and make sure you're getting it right. And make sure you can enjoy the game, though, too. If it's money you can afford to lose, again, it's also if you
How
want.
is he going to enjoy himself? He's at a Super Bowl party with nothing but Taylor Swift fans, apparently.
But I think that's what he wants to be on their side. If he puts it all on KC, they're there. They're Swift fans. He's a Swiftie for the night, you know?
Yeah. Akran Spartan next. Hot take. Izzo getting higher level recruits because Coach K and other legends retired make him among the most legendary among active coaches for top targets. And bonus, a question. What road game restaurant do you most look forward to? See you in 20 minutes. I'll be back.
Yeah. There are quite a few that I like. Papa Del's in Champaign, Illinois is really good pizza. Like, that is a place that I didn't even get to go this year that I enjoy. What is it? Nine Irish Brothers in West Lafayette, underrated. Champs in State College, good spot for sure. Nick's, if you want to sink the Bismarck, or there's some places. There are great breakfast spots in Bloomington's full of good restaurants. There are a lot of good places around. I'm probably missing
Zion was
some.
a big deal because he was a huge guy, and I just broke my chair.
Yeah, there's that. The idea of Izzo getting higher level recruits because Coach K and other legends have retired. There's something to. I mean, he is among legends. There aren't that many left, and that does matter to some guys. And when I was talking to Trey Holloman, and he is a Hall of Fame coach to people. He is, and I think sometimes people around. It's not that people forget that, but you're in the day-to-day with him, right? Whereas his brand is still huge, and it probably does help with certain guys. NIL is going to play a bigger role, but he's got some NIL, so those two things together, as long as he's around, MSU should be okay.
If you had a 5-star kid, if Tyrone Couch were a 5-star athlete, would you tell him to go to Michigan State?
I wouldn't tell him to do anything, but I wouldn't be upset if he did. I mean, I like that level of accountability. I think guys grow from that. I do. I mean, I think what's happening with Xavier Booker right now, if he sticks it out, will help him. He's playing, every day in practice against good players. And, I mean, obviously there are better bigs in the country some places, but he's playing against Malik Hall a lot in practice, playing against other bigs in practice every day, and getting opportunities. And if he lets it work for him, it'll, the fact that he's being held accountable and not developing bad habits and not out there just lollygagging and playing anyway, I think that stuff matters. I mean, I do. But I think when you don't do that stuff, you wind up with Jet Howard and Michigan's program.
Joshy up next. Xavier Booker is going to transfer after being lied to. Izzo keeps saying he needs to find him some more minutes and is 10 times better than last month, but still gets DNPs. He doesn't square up. The Booker camp is already tweeting their frustration.
A couple things. One, Xavier Booker is making good NIL money, and I'm not going to share the amount I've heard because, A, I don't have it 100% confirmed. B, I don't want to do that to the kid, and I've got mixed feelings on that sort of thing. But he is doing really well relative to the rest of MSU's team, relative to college basketball, and I don't know that there's a better offer. There might be because he's got a lot of upside, but if you're not sure he's going to perform right away, I don't know. And I don't think he's that unhappy there. I don't think there might have been a moment of frustration and a deleted tweet from a family member or something like that. But the problem is he's not being lied to. Izzo probably made the mistake of saying this before the Maryland game, which is like the worst matchup for Booker. That is like a physical game that is intense and down to the wire, and every possession's a grind. I still would have put him out there for a possession or two to let him feel that, to try and get through. I would have done it only in the first half. But I also understand why that didn't happen there. I will be surprised if he doesn't play at Minnesota.
John, next. A coach doesn't get credit for wearing a blue suit on the sideline if also wearing white sneakers.
Noted. Okay.
That's kind of weird.
Yeah.
Professor Jonathan Smith will win more games at MSU than D'Antonio. And bonus, sesame seed bagel is the best bagel.
Do you have a favorite bagel?
It wouldn't be sesame seed, no.
Yeah.
No.
I like
a regular bagel.
Yeah, I like a cheddar herb, some veggie
Blueberry
cream cheese.
Bagel.
Yeah, that's good. I try not to eat a lot of bagels because they have more calories than donuts, and I can go to Groovy Donuts and make the better decision for my calories.
That's right. Fuck bagels.
Yeah, fuck bagels. There we go. Jonathan Smith, more games at MSU than D'Antonio. There's a chance it happens, and he's not even as successful in the sense that he's younger and he wins enough and he sticks around a long time.
36-5.
Because you've got to
hit that number.
Because what did D'Antonio do? 13 years, something like that, 13 seasons? So, I mean, if you could be a good coach and coach 16, that's a long time to do it in this college. So we'll see. I think he's got a chance to be a good coach. Winning 100 games at Michigan State, though, if he gets there, it's really worked out.
Nestle's Quick Hotel next. Get rid of the bye week between championship weekend and the Super Bowl. It's just now dawning on me that there was like some kind of Pro Bowl event today. Or is that after the season now? Who cares? Bonus. Anyone who moves President's Day to the day after the Super Bowl gets my vote.
Well,
just make it a national holiday.
It's moved so far back that it's now only a week away from President's Day, which is amazing. Like for a while it was like, how do you actually – they ought to just move President's Day. There are things that I don't understand in this country. Why don't we have President's Day on Super Bowl Monday? And why don't we have Easter always in April? The Jewish lunar calendar, screw that. Like, what the hell? Like, we don't know when he actually rose from the dead. Like, we can do it we can set it for the date of the Masters, the second Sunday in April, the weekend after the Final Four every year. And you know what? Nobody's going to be hurt by it. Not a single person. That's when Easter belongs. This year, it's going to be too cold for like sundresses and Easter egg hunts. It's going to be weird. It's going to be during the second round of the NCAA tournament, so a lot of families are going to miss things because guess half the family's going to be watching the tournament. It's not, Come on. But to this point, the bye week, though, I think is important because for 3 reasons. COVID, concussions, and shit, I had a third one, too.
Well, if you have injuries on your team, you can heal up.
Right.
I'm glad COVID was number 1, though.
But, you don't want to lose somebody in this era where a COVID test screws you, concussion puts you out a week automatically. The 2 weeks off.
Can COVID still do that? Can you still get, right? You're banished from the whole facility or something?
Yeah, they don't want you around. Yeah, it would cost you probably the next game. You don't need that, But the concussions is the bigger one. There was a third C. I came up with it. And I was pretty proud of myself, and now I can't remember it.
The third C.
Cockburn.
There you go. That was it.
Bill McLeod next. MSU Hoops showed they can grind out wins in ugly games. They have to out-rebound their opponents to have success in March.
Cockburn.
That's why that Maryland game was important. And they out-rebounded them. They had some bad bounces, too. I was talking to Malik Hall about this in the locker room. There were a few balls that were just like a few of those early offensive rebounds from Maryland. It was like, geez, how did that land there? That sort of thing. And some of that's uncontrollable. The fact they kept defending, the fact they actually got as many offensive rebounds, I think, or maybe one less than Maryland, and out-rebounded Maryland, I thought was a really good sign. Again, doing things with consistency, and we're getting to that point in the season where, if you're going to make a move, this is when it happens. If you look at the history of Michigan State basketball, when they've struggled going into February and really gotten it going, and they've not all, they had a pretty good January in parts. There have been years where you get to February 8th and they don't look great, and then it starts. Like we're about a week away from where historically they've really made their move if they're going to do it. And so, in other words, you're getting too late in the year to have a swoon. You don't want to have another stretch where you're bad for 3 games or something goes wrong.
Cracker Sofa next. Bench, start, and cut. Tyson Walker, Travis Trice, and Drew Neitzel.
See if you agree with me on this. I would start Tyson Walker, I would bench Drew Neitzel, and I would cut Travis Trice. And those are 3 top 50 players all time in Michigan State basketball, but Travis Trice is the fringe of those guys, had that great run at the end. Neitzel's really good, but he was not Tyson Walker.
See, I was going to go Travis Trice, start Tyson Walker, bench, Neitzel, cut.
Walker, you got to be careful sometimes because you get your recency bias, and I don't want to do that, but Walker is a better player than any of those guys.
Sure.
And so I would go Walker 1.
Andrew Gauthier next. MSU Hoops is either making a Final Four run or out in the first weekend. Depends on matchups.
Or somewhere in between. Yeah, look, it's all on the table. This could be a George Mason year. It could be a year they're in the Final Four. I do think there is a part of this team that knows they need to play well, but they also believe when they get there that they can turn it on, that they can do what they did against Baylor, that they can get it going. I don't know if they always can. I don't know if every matchup will allow for that. But I do think they will play hard, play well, and be a hard out in the tournament and be a nasty, almost unfair matchup for, if they get to a 6 seed and they wind up playing a 3 that's had a great year, that's really unfair to that 3 seed, that a team like that, and that's sometimes what happens, though.
Captain Spartan next. I went to the Maryland game. This MSU team ceiling is a championship. I laughed and bet $100 to win $6,000. Everyone hating on MSU are casual fans who don't see the potential and like to cry and complain. This is a way better team than last year. Way better. Wow, that's a hot take.
Yeah, they're different. Early in the year they were not better and you could the Hauser absence. There are elements of them where they're better now. I think Malik Hall is better than he was last year coming off that injury, and that's making a big difference right now. I think Hogard is more consistent. I think Walker has largely been more consistent. We'll see if Akins raises his level to the end of last year. And they're a little bit better inside. Cooper is, inconsistent. Not every matchup's for him, but he's better than he was a year ago. So they're better. I wouldn't say if you're getting 100 to win 6,000, you could lose 100. That's not a bad play for a national championship. It's just the Final Four is to win 4 games, and you get, you can get a matchup, you can upset somebody. To win 2 more in the Final Four against the types of teams you're likely to see there for this team, it just seems like more than I think this team has in them. But, maybe I'm wrong.
Ken Chu next. Cooper's offensive rebound off of Hall's 2 missed free throws won the game for MSU.
That was a big play, and I didn't even mention it in the quick takes. It was a really big offensive rebound. He played well down the stretch. He was in the game down the stretch. When's he
going to start?
Yeah, I know.
No.
Izzo and I don't 100% agree on this one.
So.
No?
Yeah.
Don't coach my team.
Sparty and GL next. Watching the Wisconsin game last week, and I realized that Tyson Walker is the only Spartan that would start for the Badgers.
I don't think that's well. You look at that team and how they're constructed. Hogard would be tough to keep out of there too, but is Klesmit or whatever his name is going to be? I don't know. I would think Hogard and Walker would still start, and in that and with that team, you put Hogard, Walker, AJ Storr, Wall, and Kroll as a lineup. That's a really good. That's a team that can win a national championship. So I would say Hogard would start.
David Zandy next. Wisconsin basketball sucks. Purdue isn't much better. The Big Ten will be out of the tourney by the time the Sweet 16 starts. Normal stuff when MSU isn't up for a long run.
Yeah, if you look at, I don't know, if you look around the league, I think Purdue is really good. I think Edey has gotten so much better. It's just so much better, and he's so much quicker laterally than he used to be, and I don't know, he's just a really good player, and I think Braden Smith is legitimately an all-conference level guard. I just think they're pretty good.
Fletcher Lawyer,
they have a couple guys, game. Jones too. They have a couple guys who are sort of X factors, but they have two all-conference dudes and one who's a National Player of the Year. And I think Wisconsin's.
But it wouldn't surprise me if all the Big Ten teams were out.
Well, that's what happened. So yeah, I wouldn't bet my life on it. Yeah.
David Cox next. Sissoko was around -11 on the floor. Cooper +8 or so. Kohler +8 in 4 minutes. He only played 4 minutes. This is evidence that I know nothing about basketball because that screams to me to play Kohler more.
Well, you don't want to ever look at plus minus from a single game, just the box score plus minus. There's deeper metrics on a plus minus for a game because what happens is it matters who you're in the game with. And there are lots of times that I look at the plus minus from an individual game and I'm like, that guy was the best guy on the floor, and he's +3, and another guy's +17. How did that happen? It just so matchups matter. Who you're on the court with matters. When you're in there. Now, I'm not saying it has you shouldn't pay attention at all. And I do think that regular plus minus, if you start to look over a longer sample size, matters. I remember, when Joey Hauser was his first senior year, and he wasn't playing that well, didn't have a whole lot of confidence. I did a column on him after they won at Northwestern, and he only had like 8 points, but he had like a 5 or 7 game stretch where he was by far the highest plus minus on the team. Like they were just better when he was on the court, and you start to realize that, and it was beyond the shooting and other things, and so it's not that it doesn't matter, and it's not that I don't think they should play Cooper or Kohler more. It's just that sometimes it doesn't tell the story.
Corey Ostrom next. Carr, Kohler, and yes, even Booker need to carve a larger role for MSU to make a run into the second weekend of the NCAA tournament. Carr and Kohler need to be consistently at 10 minutes, and Booker should get around 5 minutes. Let him feel physical play, and he will learn physicality.
Yes, to an extent, but
isn't he getting that in practice too?
Right, and you don't want to do it at the expense of losing a game. Like that Maryland game felt like they could lose it. They got down 42-41, and then
but if Izzo thinks that he can put Cooper and Sissoko together in the same line, I feel like you could do it.
Although he did Cooper and Sissoko never actually played together. They were on the court together, and then he subbed one of them out in the last game, I think. That lineup should not play together.
Did he forget what he was doing? And just,
I don't.
Oh shit! Get him out of there.
I don't know
what happened.
I don't know. It's a fair question. It's a fair question.
Clockton Spartan next. If you're Kohler, do you transfer? 4-star kid who's seen diminishing involvement on this team, having to play behind these bigs. He must have a disability or something. Have you gathered anything from the 1 to 2 minute stints that sheds light on this?
Well, it's just hard to integrate yourself back into something that's already been rolling for a while. I think last year Jay Nakins was going to have a different role on the team a little bit, and then by the time he comes back, things are formed. Now he's got to be a spot-up shooter, and that's sort of what you are. It's just hard for a guy like that who hadn't been previously a starter, who's getting in peak physical shape, was part of him understanding what it was going to take to succeed at the Big Ten level. He may be a 4-star kid, but athletically, he's a fringe Big Ten big guy. So, and he knows that. He's got great skills, but he's not athletically a top tier dude. And so when you sit out for 2.5 months, you're trying to, it's just hard. It's a shit situation. I almost wish they'd redshirted him. Can't do it now. I've looked at the rules on that, even though because he's played at this point in the year, it's not about just the number of games played. It's when you play them. I think that would have been something to look at. Will he transfer? I don't know. I haven't talked to, I don't think he would say that now, but I would think he might think he could still do it at MSU, and I think he's a kid who would be determined to see if that could work. But I think this was the year he was counting on that. He's a kid who could be successful somewhere, I think. I really do. But, I don't know. It's a good question. I think he's pretty happy. I think he likes it at MSU. I think there's a chance he could be a good player there still. It just sucks that he's sort of lost this year in a lot of ways.
Chris Eastlick next. The constant hand ringing about Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce on news networks and sports shows is now 100 times worse than any of the attention they got during games. And bonus, the Cheryl Swoop's take on Caitlin Clark was something.
It was ass is what it was. Did you see this?
I did not.
So she basically was on Gilbert Arenas' podcast.
Okay.
And was and if you listen to more of it, she's not dismissive of Caitlin Clark. The clip that got cut's not great, but she was just wrong in the clip. I mean, she was basically saying that Caitlin Clark was only going to break the all-time scoring record because she was a COVID senior, a fifth-year, extra-year senior, that she was 25 years old, that she took 40 shots a game. And like other people were pointing out, and Iowa eventually just tweeted it, she's actually a fourth-year regular senior. She's played 14 fewer games than the person who owns the record. She's going to break it in fewer games. She's only takes less than 20 shots a game, and she's 22 years old. Like, she just had all her information wrong, but it went viral, and she's basically, Cheryl Swoops was just hating on.
She thought she was 25, though?
Yeah, there's this.
How do you get that wrong?
I don't know. Everybody thinks these people are all COVID kids, and when you say COVID kids, it sounds like some crack babies of, the 80s or something. I don't know. I didn't mean that. Fix that post. That's really not great either.
Oh, man.
Jeez, I'm sorry.
Made me spit up here.
The Caitlin Clark, there are people who, she does get extra attention because she's white. Like, that is a thing. And it's okay to say that.
And she's great at basketball.
But she's amazing at basketball. And, and so I understand if you're Cheryl Swoops, who is also amazing at basketball. But Caitlin Clark plays a style of play. It's not just that she's the white girl from Iowa. She also plays a style of play very similar to Steph Curry in a lot of ways that people love to watch. And that's the thing. I think if that had existed from somebody 20 years ago, people would have been into it then too, regardless of race. So I think there's a little bit of that, and I get that. And I get that frustration from people like Swoops, that there's this attention on her that they didn't get even when they were great. The hating is too much.
TK next. Stats don't show it, but Geronimo on Maryland was an absolute beast. Izzo was smart to try to get him in foul trouble with Malik.
Yeah, he was tough. He was, and
almost got kicked out before half, right? I mean, it's kind of weird.
Well, that was Reese who got really bad foul. Was it Reese or Geronimo?
Well, no, Geronimo after he did that little shove or something weird.
When he shoved AJ, right? Yeah. Yeah, no, they're a physical, tough team. They're going to be a pain in the ass for somebody, and I think they're going to be in the NCAA tournament, and somebody's going to look at them in like an 8-9 game and go, "Fuck," and even if you're a 1 seed, like if they get to the second round, they're just as likely to lose that first round game. But if they get to the second round and they have a day where they're shooting okay, and you're not ready to match their physicality, that's a pain in the ass. Like, that's a really difficult team to deal with. And credit to Michigan State fans. Like, Michigan State fans are a rather smart basketball audience, because I think everybody knew it. Like, it didn't matter what their Ken Palm rating was. I mean, their record is identical to Michigan State's going in. Everybody had seen the previous game. They knew who Maryland was. They knew how difficult that game was. Nobody begrudged Michigan State for how they won that game. It was like, this is in some ways the best defensive team, certainly the most physical defensive team in the conference.
C-Dubs up next. If Maryland makes the NCAA tournament, they upset a team round 1 and lose close in the second round. That defense is elite. And bonus, big sporting events and award shows should never be on late when a majority of Americans work the next day.
This is the Grammys we're talking about last night. Yeah. It sucks. They're always Sunday nights. I mean, it's
you still watch the Grammys?
I didn't watch it, but
that's what I mean. Like, C-Dubs is.
Well, a lot of people do. No, a lot of people watch it. Let's appointment viewing for a lot of people. I think so.
Is this like the Equalizer with Queen Latifah? Like, these numbers are skewed?
How many people? A lot of people. These are a lot of people.
No.
But it feels like it could start a little earlier, although on the West Coast, then it's too early. It's tough because the TV ratings show that it's the exact right time, but it just I feel like everything could still do really well in the ratings and be moved up an hour, and it would make it for people on the Eastern time zone a whole lot easier if you're trying to watch a game or an event, a big game, on a Sunday night.
Neurotic Pants up next. Number 1, as long as MSU continues its extremely impressive tournament appearance streak, I'll be happy with the caliber of its program. 2, MSU will beat Illinois and, as per usual, surge a bit in late February, early March. Izzo's strength is getting his players dialed in and finding just the right arrangements in team lineups. And bonus, MSU hockey is good, but not there yet. Michigan, Minnesota, and maybe a few other teams still have more talent on the ice.
A couple good ones here, and to be fair to Mr. Neurotic Pants, he has left Twitter, so I don't know if he's even aware that we're just doing he doesn't see one hot take. He just emails these in,
or he doesn't care.
Or either way. Yep. The Michigan State hockey may win the Big Ten and be like the third or fourth most talented team in the Big Ten, which speaks to their consistency. They've got enough firepower. They've got great goaltending. They've got a couple really. They've got several really good players, and they've got more depth than they've had at any point. But it is true that there have been some games where I'm watching and you go, I don't know if they're the best team on the ice, but shit, they're not far away from winning the Big Ten or at least having a real shot at it. Interesting take though, the idea that you'd be happy as long you're happy with the caliber of the program as long as the tournament streak continues. I think at some point people want more than the 6. They got to have another year where they're they got to get back to the 3-2-1 seeds where they're kind of a favorite to make a run. People want that.
David Witcher next. Problems with MSU right now are overhelping on defense and chasing the ball instead of boxing out. And it seems like they're trying to go under screens on purpose. Feels like stuff that should have been corrected by now.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that they're not trying to correct things. Things are happening in that's, first of all, overhelping on defense. Their entire model of defense is, and I understand there's overhelping, but is helping in gaps, right? Is getting in the gaps and helping. That's what they do. And so it's what's worked for years and years and years. But there are times they go under screens that I go, I wouldn't leave that guy. But that's usually the scouting report. It's rare that they do that when they weren't supposed to.
And we said, would somebody please guard somebody?
BPA next. If Mady Sissoko knew how to catch the ball high and keep it high without bringing it down for a meaningless power dribble, he'd average 6 more points a game. Coaching malpractice.
Well,
I refuse to believe that the coaches do not tell him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
They do. I mean, they work with him. Doug Wojcik works with him all the time. Like that, I mean, the relationship between Doug and Doug is trying constantly. And some guys just don't have the feel for the game. And you get there and you get ruffled and you get, you get nervous because you don't hold on to the ball that well as it is. And it just kind of is what it is. It's not that he's not.
But just don't put the ball on the floor. Just go up. If you get blocked, all right.
Easier said than done.
I understand.
Yeah.
It is. I feel like, all right. Miller.
As somebody with short arms, like I know what it's like to have zero confidence when I have the ball in the post around people who have long arms. And sometimes
Mady Sissoko has 19 feet of arms, though. This isn't you. Like
he's only 6'8", and he's got Gavin Schilling's hands, right? Like he doesn't have, if he
don't put the ball on the floor.
If he had my hands, he'd be in good shape.
No dribbling. Miller next. The team has known what the center spot is all season, yet the guards leave guys with bad hands alone on rebounding and loose balls. They need to channel Aaron Glenn. Know your roster and play within yourselves. And bonus, Mady is averaging a rebound every 2.86 minutes played. Zach Edey is averaging 1 every 2.6 minutes. Fascinating.
I'd still take Zach Edey. Yeah, but it is true that those guys don't play as much. Mady Sissoko's rebounding numbers aren't all that bad. He should be averaging about 3 more a game if he could hang on to them, though. I mean, that's the thing. And his teammate should average about 2 more a game total of ones he doesn't knock out of their hands. Like does he not time his jump right or something? It seems like he's just not that tall, and he's not as long as you think. That's really the issue with him, I think, and it's the hands. But he's better.
Play him 9 minutes then if you're telling me all this shit.
Yeah, he's a better rebounder and he's a good screener. He's a great guy. Yeah.
Mr. Benchen, this is a NIT team without Tyson Walker, and one and done with him. And from Sweet Leo, without Tyson Walker, we would be screwed.
Yes, but, without Zach Edey, Purdue's a bubble team, right? They're not doing so well. Take the best player off every team. Most teams in the Big Ten are in trouble. That's not that uncommon in college basketball. Take Sean Respert off the best Spartan teams. Take, I don't know. It's just there are very few teams that can take a player of Tyson Walker's ability. And also, if you took Walker off, I don't know that they would be an NIT team. I think it would be really interesting. They would definitely be a bubble team. But the depth is in the backcourt. I think if you lost Fears and Walker, you're probably right. But if you still had Fears and they had lost Walker and he was, I don't know. I tend to think they might find a way. Yeah, it would be close. They would be a bubble team.
Beppe Plum next. My wife laughs at me because my dyslexia made me read Travis Kelce. So by default, that will always be his name in my head. That was until Graham called his brother Jason Kelly. Now I'm just confused. And bonus, building a foundation of 3 stars feels better than striking out on top 100 players and ending up with last-minute plan C guys. CJS seems like he will be okay.
Sorry, I meant to spell that out. That was Jonathan Smith. The
CJS?
Yeah, it was like the Coach Mel.
Jonathan
It's like the Coach Mel Tucker stuff. I always wrote those out for you because I never understood it. It's
we don't have enough time.
Message
for
board
all
jargon.
That.
Yeah.
I like that his wife makes fun of his dyslexia, though.
I feel like you got to do that though. If you
make fun of someone's dyslexia,
I feel like if you're married to them, you're close enough to make fun of people's flaws. You know what I mean? It's not something you know how it is. You can make fun of your own, but not anybody else.
Haha, you dyslexic ass.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, what you want if you're Michigan State right now is to build a good foundation. And as many 4 stars you can get. You can get 5 stars, great, but you're right. You do want to identify guys that you like, even if they're 3 stars. You just don't want to be – I think that was part of the problem with Mel Tucker is you get left with nothings or just transfers. And if look, Michigan State's 2000 – I keep getting the year wrong – 10 or 11 recruiting class had a lot of 3 stars. And – it wound up being as good a recruiting class as any in the country that year. But they were guys who developed or were really good right out of the gate.
Spartan 18770 next. Had Michigan State football introduced the black uniforms in 2021, as they should have, MSU would have gotten 10 more 4-star and 3 more 5-star recruits in that year's class. We could have been competing for a Big Ten championship this year. Nike screwed us over again. Bonus. Next year's Michigan State-Michigan football game will be on Peacock.
Peacock?
It would not surprise me. But, there are worse things in this world. By next year, I think everybody will be used to it a little more. And
you sound like a Peacock executive.
I'm somebody who likes Peacock. I don't love it. I feel bad for people. I don't like things that limit people being able to view big games. Look, I understand certain things are cost prohibitive for people too. Like, paying for Peacock, it may not seem like much to a lot of people, but it is for some people. It's a pain. It's something that prevents them from seeing a game or seeing
better
games.
than Big Ten Plus, though.
It is, and it's cheaper.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy? Travis Maynard with just a bonus. What About Bob isn't just Bill's best movie. It's one of the best comedies of all time. Dr. Marvin's Death Therapy could unite this team's knots. Dr. Marvin, Dr. Leo Marvin, your death therapy cured us, you genius. We're rebounding.
He probably had another one that I missed or put somewhere else or we've already read. I don't know. It's unlikely. Just a bonus. But he's right about What About Bob. I mean, it's just an unbelievable movie.
I'm just really scared that we were on the same page with that one.
I like a lot of good movies. I mean, I also like some movies that aren't so good.
Which good movie do you like?
What About Bob?
Other than that.
Well, I'll give you like the classics. I'm a big like Shawshank guy. I'm a big, I mean, those are. I'm a great big like. I love Runaway. Runaway Jury? I love.
Is that Lifetime?
No, that's it's got Gene Hackman, Keanu Reeves.
Oh.
It's really good. Not Keanu Reeves. Yeah, no, I'm getting it wrong now. Fuck, hold on, I gotta look it up. 1 second. Son of a bitch.
Where's he at? Off.
I can't stop this feeling.
sorry, John Cusack. I meant Dustin Hoffman, Rachel Weisz. I mean, it's a Jeremy Piven. It's a great cast. Unbelievable movie. You'd like it. It's a really good movie.
Sure.
One of my top 5 all time.
Sports Guy 1919 next. The most infuriating decision during the Lions game, calling the timeout at the end on offense. Might not have mattered anyways, but are you serious? I know not to do that shit, as it effectively ended the game, and pro coaches don't. I think they knew they were just praying for a miracle on the onside.
Yeah, I don't. It was bad.
It did suck.
Yeah, it's the one. I mean, for all the things that went wrong, and some are mistakes of like physical mistakes. You want to get mad at people. You don't want players to make them, but Gibbs didn't mean to fumble, right? I mean, and
sure.
And Dan Campbell was making a calculated decision on the 4th downs that you can argue one way or another. The decision to run it on 3rd down and you have to use that timeout and use that timeout is just a mistake. Like that's bad. It's bad coaching. That's bad time management. And that's a little concerning. But yeah, I mean that's the one that sucks.
MZA next. The Pro Bowl is ass.
It's not really it's a flag football game, right? It's not really a Pro Bowl anymore,
I don't know.
Right?
I didn't even watch.
Yeah.
No.
Can you gamble on it still? I don't even know if you can. I have to look.
Sponsored by 1-800-GAMBLER. Some dude next. This one's for Jason and all of those shitheads that are predicting the Lions' one-and-done future. What, did I predict that? Or is he? This team is going to be sick next year, and the reason is the whole incredible rookie class will go to year 2, which will show huge improvements for those guys, 3 of which are already at an all-pro level. And bonus, can confirm that MSU hockey is the best ticket in town. Went to 10 games, sold 6 on the resale, and those paid for the whole season. And double bonus, screw you, Couch. Love the show.
Appreciate you, some dude. Yeah, that's a good deal. Went to 10 games, sold 6 on the resale value, paid for the whole season. That's telling you that the market is there for MSU hockey. That's a good deal for sure. Yeah, I don't. Does anybody think the Lions are gonna? I don't.
Well, we had the hot takes afterwards.
Yeah,
after the game the next day.
It was the emotion of that, though. I think people were really down. I think if we redid how people feel about the Lions right now and next season, I think people would be more optimistic.
All right. Andrew Zuiza next. If the Lions had lost before the NFC Championship, people would be saying we took a good step, but watch out for next year. It's like people think we can't have too many good things. This is the worst version of this roster we'll see for the next 3 years or so. So it is kind of the same old Lions a little bit. The mentality is still there. People saying,
from some people, yeah, yeah, no,
and I understand that as well. But yes, like you said, if you feel that way a month from now, still, then I don't know.
But he's right in the point that if you don't get to the NFC Championship, but you lose a week earlier, but everything looks, you're like, all right, they took a step, and it's the way they lose in they lost in a horrible fashion. They could have won it, and it's just hard to get that. Yeah, you're right. It would have felt better in some ways to get blown out in the championship game. I think there also, as you get away from it, though, there is you're able to take some consolation in the idea that they aren't that far away.
It's just that we're like 9 months away from football or whatever.
It's a long stretch. A lot of Tiger baseball.
T-Bone's dad next. The Lions are the reincarnation of the going-to-work Pistons. Super gritty, beloved coach, and point guard or quarterback reclamation stories. And they'll hoist the Lombardi next year. Well, there we go, T-Bone. T-Bone's dad, excuse me. It's the spirit.
Yeah, look, there are, I can see that. It's that.
But I get how devastating that. I understand. I couldn't even do the show the next day. I get it.
Yeah.
But like you have to be somewhat optimistic with these guys.
Yeah, and
it's the 3rd year of this regime.
And there's no evidence that they're going to get worse year by year. You know what I mean? Like it would be one thing if they were going into, you hear teams say, oh, they're in salary cap hell or whatever. It doesn't look like that right now. They're not in salary cap hell. I mean, do they have to make wise decisions all the way through to avoid it? 100%. But they're not in salary cap hell. There's no evidence that they're going to get worse. I think what scares me all the time, and this is just me being a natural downer and, thinking things are going to go wrong, and this is not my fault. This is me watching, 35 years of Lions football. This is on them for that. It's the injury concern. It's like, but will all these guys be healthy next year?
Gavin Haas next, getting the first pick in the 2024 NBA draft and landing Alex Sarr. Alex, who? What? Sarr? Is that his name? Alex Sarr is the only possible way the Pistons can form any sort of future out of the core that's been built so far. This team has zero identity and somehow plays better when their best players are not on the court.
I mean, there are some concerns right now, and it sucks that Cade's been hurt as much as he is, so you really haven't gotten a chance to, to get a look at what he is. Like I said, my plan would be to move him for a star if you could do it. And part of that package I put in the pregame show. It's not a great group that fits. It's just a lot of good pieces. I'd be very careful about getting stuck on bad long-term contracts or I don't know. I'd be very careful with what I did with the Pistons right now. I'm not as panicked as other people. I think, I don't get back into the Blake Griffin territory where you've got expensive.
You're not worried as a Pistons fan? I mean, didn't they go on a 36-game lose, whatever it was?
You would rather that than be a Bulls fan. I mean, the Bulls are so much further away than the Pistons. They got to realize they got to stop trying, then tear it down, then rebuild. They're like 5 years behind the Pistons, right? You don't want that. The Pistons are at the bottom, but
then you have that Michael Jordan thing you can reflect on.
Well, they do have that, yeah.
Pigskin Scoop next. University of Detroit basketball is an absolute dumpster fire. 0-24 is a disgrace. That's real?
Yeah.
Damn. Bonus take. The Grammys should be moved to a streaming service from now on. Wait, they're 0-24. Are they that? Oh man, I got to tune in.
Yeah.
How bad?
I meant to watch them the other day if they were. I don't know if they were on or not, but they were playing Cleveland State, and Drew Lauder, who played at Lansing Community College, was their star. Plays for Cleveland State. So I wanted to watch the game, but yeah, I mean they must have
0-24. Man.
That's hard to do. That's really hard to do. This is not like a low major. Like you're losing to every low major. I mean, they must just be the worst roster assembled. I would like to see how I'd fit in on that roster.
Richard Kane next. Breslin will never be louder than on March 11th, 1990, when Ken Redfield and Dwayne Stevens combined for a steal, leading to Stevens' Big Ten championship clinching lay-in, denying Purdue, and that goon Steve Scheffler, who stole Steve Smith's Big Ten MVP award. Bonus, one more thing about the cock.
One good thing.
One good thing about the cock. Peacock. They don't have to immediately switch to other programming like ESPN or Big Ten Network. I don't know what that word is. So we got to see a large portion of the after-game celebration of Izzo's 700th win after MSU beat Michigan University.
I heard a lot of people commenting on that, and that is one advantage. And so maybe the people will start to find good things, especially if the broadcast improves. They've had good announcers. I think the broadcast quality wasn't always great. If they can improve like if you can have a top-notch broadcast, I don't think people will be as annoyed. People will get used to it over time. But that is one of the cool things, especially if you can stick around and show people elements of the environment in the game in the evening that they wouldn't get to see otherwise. And I was not at that game in 1990. I remember it. I remember being like 11 years old and watching that Dwayne Stevens drop that ball in. It's one of the safest layup dunks I've ever seen in my life. But I was not there. I would be curious to see what it sounded like.
All right, Nate Rhodes next. Foster Loyer could have been an MSU great had he moved to shooting guard to run around pin downs and played off the ball instead of having to create on his own. Not making this move and Loyer leaving the program was the beginning of the downward spiral this team has had in recent years.
It's an interesting point. Like I remember when they recruited him thinking, I don't know how this is going to look, but I thought, boy, he was an incredible high school player, and his shooting was just unbelievable. And so maybe if they had tried to use him more as a shooter. He wasn't that big. He wasn't as big as Neitzel or as athletic, so I don't know if that would have worked entirely, but he could have had a role. And when he went to Davidson, you saw that. Now, but Davidson was his level. That was perfect. Like the high mid-major, the Atlantic 10, that was ideal for him. And sometimes you just got to find your level, and he eventually found it, and it was not the Big Ten. Could have there been a better way to use him in the Big Ten? Yeah, 100%.
Jack Hakala, hot take live from Wisconsin and Purdue. His couch, apparently. A.J. Storr went 3 for 8 with 7 points and 0 for 2 from 3. But he goes nuclear against MSU. Make it make sense. Anyways, my hot take is college basketball gets the short end of the stick because no one pays attention until February. Wait, is that a good thing?
Yeah, you can argue sometimes if you've had a bad start. It's a niche sport until February, I think, and then it becomes a mainstream sport, and it was a big-time mainstream sport in March. Because it kind of sucks how late the NFL is going now because by going an extra week, it's a week less of college basketball essentially. But they do a nice this year worked out of okay, you got a week before the Super Bowl. Like the games that were on over the weekend on ESPN, CBS, there were some good games, big-time teams, and that's a good way to debut it. They have some other games on Super Bowl Sunday, and then you come back the following week. So the beginning of February, as long as you can start right then and sort of say, here's the ramp-up, that's just the way it's going to be. I think it's going to be a niche sport otherwise.
Bo McJunkins up next. It's so frustrating seeing tweets about Northwestern, James Madison, and others being good, so we should feel good about our schedule. We used to beat these teams. Now it's, well, they're good, so good losses. I know that wasn't your point, Graham, but have seen it from others. And bonus, self-checkout lanes should have an embarrassing alarm after the item limit if you try to do a full cart in an express lane.
How do you feel about people with a full cart and express lane and self-checkout?
I mean, go for it if you want to sit there and do all of your groceries that way, right? I mean, there's these stores now, there's like 6 or 7 checkouts, right? I mean, it shouldn't take that long. If you want to, I don't know why you would want to do that. I will wait in line if I have
too much
a
stuff.
cart full of,
yeah.
Like, what are we doing?
No, it doesn't make sense. I'm with you on the, it is frustrating for, like, Michigan State has had one of the all-time hindsight schedules, and that's why I tweeted out, because Northwestern, James Madison, Indiana State, like nobody knew Nebraska, like how good these teams were going to be. And so, Butler has been a really good team this year. And when you looked at the schedule beforehand, some of the games that looked like gimmies or at least favorable haven't been. And that's contributed to the record and also how people feel about the team. Whereas if you put different brands in those, you might feel a little different. I still think with this particular MSU team, though, where the expectations were as high as they were, and for good reason, there would have been disappointment regardless in the record. I think they've turned things a bit and the mood has changed, but it took a while. And that the way they started shooting the ball was pretty amazingly bad.
Tyson's Fury next. This MSU team is going to peak at the right time and will do something special, but they will come short of their ultimate goal because of the center position.
Yeah, I mean, they might, and that's something they're going to have to live with. Izzo will have to live with. The staff will have to live with if that's what happens, because I think they have the goods elsewhere, to get it done.
David Lankin. I see only 6 more wins on MSU's conference schedule and a 4th or 5th seed in the conference tournament. Izzo needs to get more from the bench and at least get them tournament experience. If he does, Carr and Fears can help him get through the first NCAA tournament weekend.
Yeah, my guess is Fears doesn't play. Maybe he plays 3 minutes. He gets to be part of the tournament. You get him back into things if his body is there. Yeah, I don't think he'll be a big part of things if I do think Carr is still important for their ceiling, like what steps he can take. And there's some limitations to what he does, but the biggest thing he's got to do is he doesn't always rebound as well as his athleticism would allow him to, and he misses some defensive assignments that in close games really matter. And he gets taken out for those sort of things. And it's tough because he comes in, he makes impact, right? It's like, that guy makes an impact. So you just have to live with some of it. And I think they should live with it probably a little more than they do.
NPC softball dad. Softball season begins Friday. Coach Show turned the roster over using the portal. Guaranteed they won't be in the worst Power 5 program again this season. If you're looking for a favorite player, choose Hannah Hawley, New England girl that played for the Rhode Island Thunder. Appreciate you. Appreciate the heads up. No, I'm looking forward to seeing what she does with that program. And Michigan State softball, it's a hard place to win in softball. It is cold as – I mean, they didn't play a single home game after April. It was cold. It was like snowy or underwater, their field most of last year. It's a tough place to win. I think she's got a chance to put some energy into it. I don't know what the ceiling is at MSU. Alpha Brett. Next, if DeMar Hamlin's situation happens in the Super Bowl, they will cart his ass off the field, dead or alive, and continue play. Too much money on the line for a lot of people.
Do you think in that same situation –
Is this Skip Bayless?
Yeah. Do you think in that same situation they would call the Super Bowl for that night? I think they would.
I don't think they would.
I think because the precedent's there. They even if they didn't want to, they would have to, because they did it before. Like, it would just be look so crass. There are things it's like with 9/11. Sorry, this is a tough pivot. But what I mean is they were always going to cancel football that weekend after it happened on Tuesday, after they didn't cancel after Kennedy's assassination and took all sorts of shit from it. That was like
Any
a
other
lesson.
Tragedies you want to bring up before we get out of here?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Dark Mantonio next. Good thing Michigan is now selling alcohol at athletic events because it would take a lot of drinking to actually go to Chrysler Arena to watch my favorite basketball team. Damn, they're bad.
They are awful.
Do they play Detroit Mercy?
They'd beat them probably. But, I mean, they have like a 10-point lead at the half of most of their home games and somehow lose. It's the end. I mean, they might not get to 10 wins this season. It's not pretty. I'm very curious what Juwan Howard's like long-term plan is there. Like what I mean, I think he's probably going to get another year, and it's like, but you have to come up with and it doesn't have to be a quick fix. Like part of the problem is I think he's recruited over guys. Like he hasn't let young guys develop. He's tried to go in the portal and I don't think he's taken the right approach. And then he's had some portal guys that couldn't get into the freaking school, and they got to be more on the same page with that.
Couch on fire. Good week for MSU sports. Beat Michigan in men's and women's basketball and gymnastics. One win closer to a possible regular season championship in hockey. On a side note, Big Ten Network said that Edie's numbers were special. Yeah, 7'4" and 300 pounds are special.
He's also really good. Like he's big as shit, and that's what part of the reason he's good. But like I'm very curious to see what they do with him in the NBA because he's going to get drafted.
He'll get dunked on.
And if you can't use him, then you're just a bad coach. And maybe it's a second unit thing because you will have to build some stuff around him. But even if that's your second, like I don't mind putting him as my second unit center when my second unit's in the game for 18 minutes a game and making people deal with him. I think that's a pretty smart play.
Jake Hawkins next, another hard-fought battle of a game won by MSU. I thought for sure the final score would be like it was in Maryland. We are witnessing the next best Big Ten rivalry in basketball. Perhaps Mike Valeni is right. Izzo should probably go back to wearing suits again.
Everything's cyclical, Like, are we talking about Purdue, Wisconsin be the next big rival? Everything's cyclical. There was a while where Michigan State, Illinois was the best rivalry. Michigan State, Ohio State. Michigan State's been a part of a lot of them over the last 20 years. And when you look at like the Ken Palm rankings over since 1998, the last 25 years, Michigan State is fifth nationally. You see why they're in the Champions Classic. You see what they've been. Yeah. Anyway, I don't know what else.
Last and least, Hans Jurgens. Number one, I started an LSJ writer bracketology, and Graham is in the first 4 out.
Touche.
Yeah. 2, I would bet on the NBA, but that would mean I would have to watch it. 48 minutes is too long. And 3, Kohler and Booker are better offensively than Sissoko and Cooper are defensively. Hashtag Yogi Berra.
Appreciate you, Hans. Good stuff as always. Thanks to all of you for your many hot takes, for producing our show for us, frankly. Hope to see you on what I believe will be Saturday, February 17th at Midtown Brewing Company in downtown Lansing. We will finalize that, firm it up, make sure that's happening. Probably be like a 2 to 4 p.m. sort of show in that window. But we'll talk more about it. Just want to put that on your radar. We appreciate Muskox. Go to gomuskox.com and purchase your flannel today. Again, the code for $15 off for Couch in the Roof listeners is HOFF, H-O-F-F. Thanks to Midtown Brewing Company, as always. Thanks to all of you for, listening, I guess. Is that what you do? Yeah. We will be back, I think, Thursday when I get back from Minneapolis with Groovy Donut Twitter questions. Good show, man.
Yeah, man.
Couch in the Roof.